Thanks for joining us today. We're pretty excited to talk to you about how we've leveraged Microsoft's Azure B2C at the state of Indiana. I'm Steve Kremer. This is Brian Long. I'll let Brian do a little introduction of himself here.
Yeah, thanks. So I was the Microsoft ATS for about 3 years for the state of Indiana. Sold them a bunch of cloud stuff, and they decided they needed some help. So I left and started doing some consulting for them as their cloud architect. And Azure B2C was one of their initiatives that they needed. So stepped right in, and we're able to get it going with one of our cool applications that Steve's going to talk more about. So I think you'll be pretty surprised at the powerfulness of it.
So yeah, Brian's our cloud architect for the state, and I'm the Deputy Chief Operating Officer. I've been there for 10 years. Right now my team takes care of pretty much all the infrastructure for the state of Indiana: Active Directory, Exchange, database administration, server administration, backup, storage, and now everything cloud related seems to fall into our realm. So it's a pretty large undertaking. There's not really a dull moment ever that we have there. So, I'm pretty excited about B2C. And before that, I was actually the Exchange and AD administrator for the state of Indiana. So I've got a lot of experience in the state, know how it works. So B2C was going to fit in nicely with a goal that we had a while ago. So what I'd like to do is tell you a story how the state of Indiana kind of decided to choose Azure B2C. And with a little luck and some thoughtful planning, we were able to make some real progress and actually toward a goal that we always wanted to do, was make a citizen portal. And so, Azure B2C was going to allow us to do that, I think. It was always a goal, as I said, to be able to, we wanted citizens of the state to be able to log in to one portal and be able to maybe get their driver's license renewed or actually get their fishing license, all with the same logon. Right now, it takes different logons, and I don't know if you guys work with many government agencies, but a lot of them don't like to talk to each other. So, so thankfully, because of an act of Congress, and I'll talk about that in a second, it allowed us to actually move forward with the citizen portal. And I really couldn't be happier with choosing Microsoft. I'll get in a second. Azure B2C. It's been dependable, scalable, and I think it's robust enough to actually accommodate a government organization such as the state of Indiana.
We have 6 million residents, so the goal would be to have 6 million, IDs, in B2C, or more than that if there's other people wanting to do business with the state.
So I want to kind of step back here and tell you a little bit about the agency that we work for. So we work for the Indiana Office of Technology, and this agency was created in 2005 in order to consolidate all the IT into one area. By doing this, we think we save about $14 million in taxpayer money, be able to consolidate license costs, infrastructure costs. Like I said, I was the AD administrator, and I was part of the consolidation of all the Exchange servers. So we have about 120 agencies, and they were all operating their own Exchange servers at the time. So we had about 100 Exchange servers that I consolidated down to, at the time, 8 servers. So think about the 90% reduction of cost to taxpayers and infrastructure, power consumption. It was really a win-win for the state. And when we consolidated all IT, we were able to, get rid of some overhead of IT employees. And now we have about 40,000 seats, and we're able to kind of manage that with about 300 full-time employees. And, we keep thinking about, and with my office of the Indiana Office of Technology, we're thinking about always trying to save costs for taxpayers. So, we're actually moving to Exchange Online. We think we're going to save even more money by, reducing infrastructure and actually reducing, one of the big things is archival of email. So online archiving is going to really save us a lot of money each year by being able to move that up to Exchange Online. The one thing that we didn't consolidate, and sorry, I kind of went forward there. One thing we did consolidate was application development within the agencies. So we consolidated pretty much all the infrastructure, but all app dev stuff stayed with the agencies. So a lot of times what happens is an agency will come to us with an application, something new they want to implement, and they'll come to IoT, and we kind of act as a consulting firm. We provide some project management for it, and then we provide the infrastructure, and we help them get this set up and get them on their way to be able to deploy their new application. So let's fast forward about 10 years, and an application by the Secretary of State called NBIS. They came to IoT and they said, hey, we've got this project. We want it to be a one-stop shop for businesses to register, new businesses to register. They wanted to streamline the business registration process. They really wanted to curb some business fraud, some fraud that was happening with new businesses, and just make it easy for businesses to register and become new businesses with the state. And like I said, it took an act of Congress for this to happen. This project cost $9.1 million to do. And the good thing about it was that it mandated that agencies participate in it. So this was really good for us because now we were able to, a lot of times, as you know, those agencies don't want to talk. So we're able to hopefully standardize on one solution, and they'll be able to get to talk to each other, and we'll be able to make sure that they can do that, and they really don't have a say either way. So it was good for us. So they asked for some guidance on what to do, and the support. They want us to provide some support infrastructure for this project, and since the agencies were mandated to participate, we were actually able to standardize on some things. So we had to provide the infrastructure. That was the easy part. We can set up servers. We can get them disaster recovery ready, highly available. That we do that every day. That was the easy part. What they looked also for us to do was they wanted a place where they could put these IDs, where we could provide the citizen IDs. And by providing the citizen IDs, where we're going to put this stuff, they had multiple requirements of this. So they wanted to be completely self-service. Sign in, sign up, password reset. The entire customer experience should be minimal effort on any IT part. So it should all be self-service. They wanted good customer experience. Wanted to make it easy as possible. Needed to be secure. They wanted to make sure that the protocols being used and where these IDs were kept, that we had some proven security around it. We wanted to make sure it was highly available, and it needed to be scalable. So yeah, like Brian said, we potentially could have 6 million IDs and authentications happening within this. So it was a pretty big task at hand. And it really opened up a way for us to actually make, even though this is going to be geared towards toward businesses, we're actually going to be able to open this up and actually make a citizen portal. So some of the challenges that we had. So we were challenged to find what we're going to do with this. The first thing they asked me to do is like, hey, can we just put them in your AD for us? And I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to put these citizen IDs with my employee IDs. That was the first place they wanted to put it. So we had to look elsewhere for some solutions. And one of the things that was kind of stopping us, and any solution that we thought of was this self-service. You know, they wanted to make sure that this self-service was there. So we really had to think, what can we do to make this as simple and easy as possible for us? So finding a technology to do this was challenging at the time. So we looked at some third-party solutions like Oracle Identity Management. I mean, it could do this, but it was going to be super expensive to do. And you know, in my agency, you know, we were set up to take care of the employees of the state, not the citizens of the state. So, you know, I would have had to hire extra staff, you know, infrastructure cost. It was just going to be expensive to do. We even, you know, considered Azure AD Premium at the time, thinking, okay, we could do it this way, but then we thought, you know, for self-service and things like that, we're going to have to, everyone's going to have a license, so we'd have to have a license for every citizen in the state. So that wasn't a good idea.
Well, at the time, as the Microsoft ATS, I was excited about that idea. 6 million EMS,
yeah, I'm sure.
6 million EMS licenses. I was.
And I also looked at standing up an LDAP instance. So, you know, this was my plan B. If I couldn't find anything, I was going to stand up this LDAP instance, put all these IDs in there, and then I'd have to worry about a self-service option in front of it, and I have to worry about the infrastructure now. Now I have to worry about disaster recovery, and making it high available, and making sure that all these web developers can develop against it. And you know, it was a pretty big task. And luckily, about that time, Microsoft B2C came out. So, you know, Brian was able to kind of tell us that was coming around. And the more we looked at it, we thought, this is what we want to look for. This is what we want to do. So we made a decision, let's go to Microsoft B2C for this. This is going to be a perfect opportunity to do that. The hard part was the acceptance of this. So it took a lot of convincing. So with this InBiz application, there was going to be other agencies that were coming on board to actually in different phases. So once you register for a business, there's other things that you have to do. So phase one was registration for the new business. We got that done. The second part was the Department of Workforce Development. You know, we're going to interface with them to be able to set up your employment or unemployment insurance for that new business. And then the Department of Revenue. So the Indiana Department of Revenue, you know, we're going to interface with them. So you set up a new business, you go in, you get your unemployment stuff done, set up your tax stuff, and your business is set up. And this is where it took a lot of convincing, because the Indiana Department of Revenue had some Pub 1075 requirements around this. So, you know, we really had to get past that with them on some things. And, you know, one of the things they didn't like was that it was going to be in private preview and it wasn't in production at the time. So, you know, and, you know, that was... you know, it was a little scary for us to do. You know, we're going to, you know, actually use something that's not GA yet in our production environment.
We had worked, you know, with the product group to get a MOU or memorandum of understanding ongoing in the private preview and the production posture. So we had tried to cover all the bases we could. So they would support it 24/7 if we had an issue, et cetera. So that helped in some of that. And
they've been great. Like, we emailed them when this went live about a month ago and said, hey, this is going live. They didn't hesitate. It wasn't going to be a problem. So couldn't be happier. You know, just like I said, the Department of Revenue was worried about these security issues. And, you know, what are you going to do with these IDs? Is there going to be public information up in B2C? Can it be, you know, government compliant? And, you know, really what happened was, at the end of the day, we kind of pitched this to the agencies that, you know, this is just an authentication method, you know, vehicle to get that person authenticated. It's going to be your app's responsibility to actually, you know, vet that person out to make sure that they say who they are. So once we kind of got that past them, you know, getting to B2C was easy. It just it took about 6 months worth of meetings and convincing to get them on board. Let me tell you a little, you know, a few things why we decided to choose it. Once I got past all the meetings and and things. So it was pay as you grow. It was going to be cheap, low cost. So we estimate that it's going to be right now $6,000 to $7,000 a year. Now this is just with the InBiz application. That's just with businesses in the state. Now when citizens come on board, I think it'll be a little bit more, but it's low cost. I'm not having to worry about infrastructure. It was easy to use. I mean, Brian was even able to set it up.
Yeah,
so
didn't take very long.
we were able to set it up and demo it like that. It takes about an hour to do, and you set it up, and it was really easy to show. When someone came to us, hey, we can set this up, show it to you real quick. Self-service, so it's got everything we need. Password reset, sign in, sign up, edit your profile, everything that we were looking for. It was highly available, so we knew that with Azure stuff and the cloud stuff, it's going to be geo-redundant. We're going to be able to really provide that 99.9% uptime that they were looking for. It was scalable. We knew that we would be able to have 6 million identities in there, so it's meeting every single requirement that they've asked us so far. The Graph API is great. Brian's going to show you some things that we've done with that in a second, but this was easy to use because we already used a lot of this Graph API for some Azure AD stuff. So easy integration with websites. So we could we could go out to the Azure B2C website, show the developers, hey, here's some examples on how to do this, and they look at it and they were able to run with it, and it was easy for them to do. So it didn't take any really custom coding at all. It was just an easy win on that part as well. It was using industry standard protocols such as OpenID Connect. So that was huge too. So the web developers that we have knew exactly how to interface with that. They've done that before. And the nice thing that we're not using this right now, but we're going to be able to do some secure login, so multi-factor with it. So eventually I think what will happen is there will be applications that, let's say like the Department of Revenue will, you might be able to get in and do some tax stuff, but they may want to make sure it's really you, and they're going to make sure you multi-factor. So we'll be able to put multi-factor in front of that application. So it's really robust, and it's really enough for us to really start down this road for a citizen portal when we start putting citizen services in there. So, this was the first step to get this done. Even though InBiz was geared toward more of the business aspect for Indiana, it allowed IoT to actually, make some steps forward to create a true citizen login portal. So, I'm going to turn it over to Brian. He's going to give you a quick demo, show you what we did here. If I can find my mouse.
All right, thanks.
Oh, you might have to.
Yeah. So here's the InBiz web.
There.
Oh, it's not up there. Oh,
here you want to mirror the website here.
Yeah. I don't know how to use a Mac, so he's got to teach me.
My fault. There you go.
All right, there we go. All right, so here's the InBiz website. We call him Bracket Man because he's got the brackets around his head. But basically, you can see just to log in, register. So if I'm a new user, I'll just click on registration. It's pretty straightforward. We have branded it. It's called One Indiana Access. So every user will know that this is truly from Indiana. So we use local IDs. We do not federate with or use social identities. We figured that was not the way we wanted to go. So we wanted each user to bring their own ID. Make sure I can see here. So the first part, now we're going to develop new pages that will hide some of these fields until after the registration. We're working on version 2 of that. So the user verifies their email. So just take a second here. get my email, my verification code. Again, this is branded through Azure, well, it should be, through the Azure Active Directory. You still brand it just like you would, your normal Azure Directory, so they know the emails from you. So you take my code. Again, I don't know how to use a Mac. That's Command C versus verify my code, and then oh. And you guys know how to register for something. Now the claims, that's the one thing about B2C is we have the opportunity to define what claims or what information we want to gather from the user, and then what claims we want to pass to the application. We had gone around and around about it during our discussions. Do we want their address? Do we want what do we want? And we decided, like Steve mentioned, we didn't want this. We didn't want to store PII in here, so we didn't want to gather like Social Security numbers or anything like that. We wanted it to be as minimal as possible. So like once you get into the B2C application, there's probably some further identification that they might do or verification in that fact. So, but like Steve mentioned, when we talk about the Department of Revenue, there is a premium SKU for Azure B2C that we were talking to the product group yesterday, that if like the Department of Revenue wanted to do a second level of verification, you can do a LexisNexis or Equifax or Experian call out to do a credit check or a Social Security number check or whatever. So I'll create my account. And then I'm into the dashboard, so I can, very simple for the user to do quickly. And then from here, like I said, I can start doing my other things, and there might be secondary verification or whatnot. Like I said, I can manage my profile if I needed to, change some fields. Very simple. We're going to enhance this, change your password, stuff like that. But this is, like I said, version 1. And it's the same. It's a similar look and feel. Well, cancel. It's better. It's the same look and feel for login as you notice for your any Azure services you do. It's the same screen. So one of the things that the product group is actually going to work with us on, if you notice in the top it says login.Microsoft Online, one of the new features that's coming for B2C is you actually can customize that. So we're actually going to have that change, so it'll say probably citizens.in.gov or whatever custom domain name we want to put there. So again, we can, not saying there's anything against Microsoft, but people just want to see it's actually coming from the state versus another service or something. So that'll be a feature coming, and we'll probably have that rolled out here pretty soon. So challenges. So I can go back to my slides and show you something, but when we went live, everything went fine. We were monitoring it. We got to about 500 users or so, and then we started to get some calls from the support desk. There was a support desk for MBiz who was monitoring this, and some users weren't getting their email verifications. So we had to come up with a plan on how we were going to fix that. So like Steve mentioned with the Graph API, we created a very simple little program so the help desk can create users using the Graph API if they call in and cannot get their email. So we're using RDS Gateway, so I'm having the 2-factor here. So the help desk has this little application that they can run, and basically the same fields that we're asking the user, if they just for whatever reason cannot get in and create it themselves, they can call the support desk and they can create their own create the ID form and then let them know what it is, and they'll change their password when they log in that first time. So that's some of the support stuff. One of the other things that we had to do, if I can flip back to the presentation.
Up there now.
Okay. So the problem was the emails initially when we set this up, the emails to the user came from Microsoft on behalf of One Indiana Access, the name of our directory, and that was causing some problems because it was being some users were having that block. Comcast.net they weren't getting any user on Comcast was not getting it. So we called into the product group and through our support, Premier support, and they went ahead and worked with us and dropped the actual Microsoft on behalf of. So now the emails come from One Indiana Access and an actual in.gov kind of look and feel email. So it's a little bit, like again, it's that look and feel of a service coming from Indiana versus Microsoft. So that was a big help. And then we've seen the calls come down for as far as users not getting their verification emails. We already talked about the little Graph API program for creating those. Like I said, today we passed over 21,000 users in about 4 weeks. And that's pretty good for us. We was well ahead of our expectations, and I think we've had to use this application 12 times. So that's a pretty good percentage for users having problems. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the difference. And this is what the email was when we first went live. It says Microsoft on behalf of, and then this is what it looks like now. It just says One Indiana Access. So that just a better feel to the individual user. And again, that's just a sample of the program. So I'll turn it back over to Steve. We can talk about the successes and where we're at from there. So
like Brian said, we've had 20,000 registrations so far over that, and it generated revenue from day one. So there was, I'm not saying it generated new revenue, but it generated it allowed the Secretary of State not to miss a day of being able to register a new business and take those fees to do that. So that was good. And and we also, it was minimal support was needed. We still had to have a help desk do something, so somebody could call and when they have a problem. But I think there may be 3 to 4 people that kind of man a help desk from 8 to 5 for this application.
And most of that's not just for B2C. That's just for normal application support if they're having problems processing credit cards or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But like I said, out of the 21,000, I think about 12 calls to create a user. So it's been pretty good.
And it's really easy to use. The Secretary of State, she had been kind of going around the state pitching this, and she talked about how a lawyer came up to her and said that, used to, if you need to register a new business, he would get people would come up to him and say, hey, can you help me register a new business? And he's like, hey, it's so much easier now with the way you sign in and then, inside the actual app that he didn't need to really do that for these small businesses. So I think it really has helped out the state of Indiana and the Secretary of State in registering these new businesses. And I'm pretty excited that, we're going to be able to piggyback on this and start doing this with other applications.
Yeah, so we do have some next steps. We're going to move away from what I showed you was sign in and sign up. That's 2 separate policies. Like I said, you have 2 separate login buttons. We're going to move to a more of a sign in and sign up single page. So if I drop back out here to my demo, I'll show you what that looks like real quick. And we just think it's going to be more user friendly and it's more customizable versus the current login screens. So you see that this is just a sample ASP.NET webpage, and you can just get the login button instead of the login and register. So it's a little bit cleaner. So if you don't have an account, you would just sign up now versus having to go to the 2 separate pages. So pay no attention to the graphic. It's something I'm working on. But you can see the difference in just how it would work and feel. And this is a little bit more customizable versus the current one, because like I mentioned, the current login is actual Microsoft login. You can't customize that page besides the graphic, and then everything's the same. This will actually allow you to get to a more, you can, our goal, and that's one of the things I'll talk about, is to get to, we're going to customize the branding a little bit more to fit within the application. So it doesn't look like you're leaving the InBiz application to sign in or sign up. Or leaving whatever other applications we have coming on. So, like I said, I mentioned to create the custom pages. We're also looking to create a custom, like, My Indiana Citizen portal. So as a citizen, I log into, maybe it's myin.gov, and when I log into Azure B2C, we're going to then present all the applications you would have access to, kind of like My Apps, the same sort of philosophy. You would log in, I'd have My BMV, all the services that you could do as a citizen with the state right there presented to you. And then, maybe look at machine learning or something like that to surface other information. Like if you're registered for My DNR and you're close to a park, the surface of, hey, check out this park sort of thing. So we kind of have that vision, and that's going to be where we're going to go in the next few years, try to get to something like that. But that's, as far as B2C, that's where we're at. We just wanted to maybe take a few minutes, and, we're doing some other things with Azure in general at the state of Indiana. One of the cool ones that I like to talk about is the Department of Workforce Development. We're using Azure IaaS and Azure Automation to do some calculations for unemployment data. So they had a requirement. They needed the ability to spin up, auto scale from 1 to 100 VMs. We've gotten that down to about 10 minutes for those VMs to be up and running. They'll run for 14 hours, and then we'll tear them down. And that's once a month. So that, just cost savings there. If you ever, if you have that type of workload, that's, one of the things we look at Azure for. We just had, basic, we use it for in the office technology. We're using it for remote apps and dev test labs and storage. We're using that heavily. And we have some other agencies using it for some ADX Studio portals. Sorry. So Indiana in the cloud, as far as identities, one of the things we're deploying right now is Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics, part of our EMS suite. We do own EMS for the entire state of Indiana. No, the employees, not the citizens. That would be rather expensive. We're looking at PAM as something we're going to roll out. As you notice, we're using Azure multi-factor authentication. We're using that for anything external today. So if you're external, not on the VPN, because VPN is secured with MFA. MIM, we're using that for self-service password reset. SharePoint Online and Exchange Online. So we're kind of fully committed to doing some things in the cloud and around the identities. And Oxford's been a great partner in helping us get to some of these projects done. So I'll turn it back over to Steve, and we'll do a conclusion and questions and answers, or questions if you have anything.
With all this, the cloud is really, be able to utilize B2C in the cloud is really giving us some traction to get to that citizen login portal that we really want to, that's the end goal for this, really. And now, if you go to in.gov, there's all those web pages there. Each agency may have an application that's citizen-facing. So if it is citizen-facing, they're going to be required now to use Microsoft's Azure B2C. So that that was a good win for us. So now we're actually getting to start to standardize on that. And using B2C kind of really opened the door for other workloads in the cloud. The state was real reluctant to kind of get into the cloud.
Trust me, they were. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian knows. That was, but this has kind of proven to a lot of people that there is some viable things here. There's some viable options, in the cloud that you can do to make business better. And so, since I take care of all the infrastructure at the state, I do a lot of just, when a new product comes in, a new application, I kind of look at cloud first and say, hey, can I put this in the cloud? Does it make sense? Would it be cheap enough? Would it be cheaper than doing it here? And if it is, we'll start going down that path. But couldn't be more excited with B2C. It's been a good project to be on, and I'm pretty excited to see where it goes from here.